How Bizarre is intended for mature, open-minded audiences only. If you are easily offended, we suggest you turn this wacky shit straight off.
Steps in the better direction, I suppose.
Yeah.
It's all about, well, it's all about life and living and, living the best parts of it, instead of fucking suffering and fucking never leaving your apartment,
Yeah, man.
L-I-V-I-N.
Hopefully this will get me outside.
Yeah, no shit. At least.
Yeah.
Go on a date or something for the first time in like 6 years.
Damn, man. Get on that Tinder.
Yeah.
Just do a little swiping, Lau.
The only kind of pill you should be taking is a little reinforcement.
Well,
You know, they really should. They really should make a dating app for people that like dial a swipe, or something where you have to. That was a bad joke.
Dial a swipe.
we wipe front to back.
Like when you have to go to, you're in dialysis
like a
for like
twofer?
4 hours, 5 hours. So there's something to do while you're doing.
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
I mean, that understands.
I'm in the league of I would probably feel right to say of John Mark's class where I don't really want to be online anymore.
Yeah.
It's just it's just too much garbage. I can't handle it.
There's a lot of garbage.
I'll turn on my my Instagram and it's automatic porn. Automatic every time. It's some
It
chick.
just knows what you like,
And then
Lau.
sometimes
And I
it's
agree,
irritating
and
stuff.
I do like. I don't hate it.
He's
I'm
like,
not
okay,
saying I hate it. I'm just saying it's kind of annoying.
It's my old friend.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I don't understand.
Tease me with it.
Have you guys noticed that Twitter is all of a sudden like filled with horribly violent, disturbing videos that just pop up?
Yeah, I've been
I
getting a
don't
lot
know.
of that too.
I gave up Twitter when I went to X.
When did this? This is fairly new from what I've, like
videos of people getting hit by cars and stuff.
yeah, like I literally
seen a lot
watched
of
a
that.
little kid get run over by a car. I didn't ask for that. Like, where the fuck
wouldn't
would
wanna
that
see
be?
that.
Who wants to see that? But it was just like
It's for you, Ron.
It's like
it's for you.
a shit ton of this stuff. Like, what are you trying to do here, Elon? Why all of a sudden am I being fed horrible fucking videos of like animals getting hurt and people dying?
Yeah, I've been getting a lot of like zebras getting jumped by alligators and like their noses hanging off, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Why is this in my feed? I mean, I'm watching it and I'm mortified, but
Yeah. Well, if it goes like, I guess, just a few seconds into the video, but sometimes it's just like, am I seeing what I'm seeing? And then it's like, I guess your algorithm now is like, oh, he likes this shit. I'm going to serve you up some more fucking nose hangers.
Because they fucked up.
Well, I don't understand it. It's like, I'm not following any of this shit. So, you have the option. I don't know that there's an option to bypass just the whatever the fuck I guess Elon wants to show you, which is all right-wing
can't
propaganda and violent.
The only thing you can do really is just only stay on your timeline of things that you follow, and even then.
But you have to click over to that. It doesn't default to that.
Right. And
unless I'm
even
missing
then, you have to, like, people like that you follow sometimes will share that shit.
Yeah.
Saying exactly the same things that you're saying. Like, why is this on my feed?
Yeah.
You know what I
And
mean?
why did I
So
just
you're
show
still-
it to you?
So you're still going to see it.
I was like,
And
it's so fucked
it's
up.
just, what's really crazy is that, like, I've noticed that I've seen things like on just the For You feed of people that I follow, that when I go to my following feed, I don't
Not
see
there.
that shit.
getting that too. It's pissing me off.
Yeah.
I'm like, yo,
What the hell?
Yeah,
thanks,
I know.
Elon.
It's garbage. It's just
Yeah,
fucking garbage. I don't
yeah.
go there very often. But anywho, we got to get moving on because when last we spoke, when Christopher F. Hart was about to take his first trip down to Mexico, I believe your first trip, yeah? Your first trip to Mexico?
Well, I went when I was like barely an adult. My pop
Okay.
to Cabo for
That's
a few days,
right.
but I don't think it counts.
Yeah.
Drink water.
You didn't give a lot of details, but you messaged us or you messaged me and teased that some shit went down. And it was some of the kinds of shit that I thought we were kind of joking about, and I was even worried about sounding borderline racist, but definitely, stereotyping of certain things that we hear about Mexico. Anyway, that's framing it enough. Take it where you wanna take it.
All right, well, people,
journey.
I've told this story about 10 times since I got home.
Yeah, I bet.
People come up and they're like, how was Mexico? And I just go, bad.
I starts twitching.
And they like go, what? Really? And I'm like, oh, yes. I just lit a joint because it's going to be that kind of story.
Oh, baby.
So
That makes a gun.
we booked this trip maybe 4 months ago.
Oh, it's been a while, yeah. He's been talking
And
about
Amber, my girlfriend, was like, hey, I booked us this all-inclusive resort. She'd done this before, and she's like, it's amazing. You're gonna love it. And I'm like, I can't wait. I don't know what to expect.
Yeah.
So we booked this all-inclusive resort, and I don't fuck with Mexican police or anything like that at all. Like, I'm gonna be, because I know I wouldn't do well in like a Mexican prison. Like, I'd be a fucking target.
Sure.
Look at this churro coming in. You know, like it would just be one of those things. I just know I'm not built for that.
Right.
So it's not for me.
Yeah.
So I'm playing things pretty straight and narrow. I don't really want to. I want to stay at the resort, and Ember finds all these cool things to do, and we're starting to book a bunch of day-long events. Like we're gonna go see Chichen Itza, which is one of the 7 wonders of the world, the Mayan ruins.
Very cool.
And that's like a 10-hour trip. We're gonna go at one point. I was excited about this one. We're gonna like go on this private yacht that's gonna take us up to this island. It's all for tourism, and it's all open bar and like scuba diving, and it's like Nathan Floria's dad Carl actually texted me and said, if you're going to with Cancun, make sure you check this out if you can. And we looked it up, and it looked fucking amazing.
Yeah.
So we booked that, and these are all like, you know, they're not cheap things. They're, you know, usually about $150 to $250 per person to book these things. And so we book all these things. One of them is like Mexican Disneyland. It's not really a Disneyland. It's like there's no rides or anything. It's like you float through the rivers with vests under caverns and stuff, and then swim with dolphins and all this shit. It's a very nature centric, but it looked amazing.
Yeah.
So we book all these things. We're only there for, you know, 5 days total, but 2 of those days is travel. Like, it's a fucking long ass trip.
Mm-hmm.
So we're kind of reviewing the trip we booked, and we're like, man, we're not even gonna be at the resort enough to take advantage of this all-inclusive thing we're paying for, where every meal and all the booze is paid for, because we're gonna be gone like 10 hours a day.
Right.
And Ember opens up her handy little spreadsheet she's got of the trip, and she starts doing research. She finds this condo that's in the same city, really beautiful. It's like a 5-star resort, beautiful, and it's right on the beach, and it's a condo that like serves as a hotel, so there is still like staff working and stuff, but it's like the owners rent their condos out to this association to rent out to white people, basically.
Yeah.
So it looks amazing, and it's half the price of the all-inclusive. So she's like, we should just book this. It'll be great. And I'm like, okay. I don't fucking know. I don't know anything at this point. I'm like, cool. Yeah, let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
So she changed our reservations to this. So the plan is we're supposed to fly out, and her best friend and boyfriend are going to fly out about an hour after us. And we're all going to meet there. It's a 4-bedroom condo. It's gorgeous. So there's plenty of room and shit. She had a car rental waiting for us. Very first thing, we miss our fucking flight to Mexico. I have never missed a flight in my entire life. And it's partially our fault. Like we did leave a little later than we intended. We left at 4 a.m. as opposed to 3.
Yeah.
But we hit traffic, weird traffic, 4 a.m. traffic. A couple other things happened when we got to the airport. And by the time we got our luggage checked, we knew it was like fucking an hour till our flight. And the lady's like, "You're not gonna make this flight." And we're like, fuck. So she directs us over to like the desk where they reroute people and shit. And initially the guy's like, "I'm really sorry, but you're not going to Mexico today." And we're like, fuck. And he goes, Amber's really sweet. She's like, "Well, is there anything at all you can do?" And he goes, "Well, I can make a phone call. Hold on." And he gets us on a flight to Mexico City and then to fucking Cancun. We arrive at like 10:30 p.m. at night. And we're already fucking razzled, because when you miss a flight and then you're like, you know, you're going to a layover now and then dashing for your other flight, because if you miss 2 fucking flights in one day, you're gonna feel real dumb. So it was really stressful. We're all stressed out, and we get there like 10:30. The rental car she had reserved is smaller than what we were promised.
And this is to Mexico City.
Now we're in actual Cancun. So we made it to Mexico City. Then we go to Cancun. Pick up the rental car. It's like 11 o'clock at night. It's a little smaller, and it's not a big deal except we have to pick up her friends too, who also missed their fucking flight, unbelievably,
Oh, interesting.
but couldn't get on a redirected flight, so they weren't showing up till the next day. So we pull up
The
we
perfect
get our
traveling
little-
partners.
like it's like a Chevy Cavalier, and we load, and I'm like, how are we gonna get them and luggage in here if we have to? Like, we are barely fitting with our luggage. And she's like,
Yeah.
we'll work it out. We'll work it out. I'm like, okay. So we pull up to the condo, and the guy comes out to assist us with the luggage. And we ask him, where's the parking garage? Where can we park? And he kind of gestures at the street in front of the thing. He's like, street's great. Don't worry about it. Park our car. Go in. The condo's fucking great. We're exhausted. We go to bed. Get up the next morning. Car has a fucking boot on it.
Oh no.
And we're like, oh my God. So the hotel manager, the condo manager, he comes out and he's like, we can get this taken care of. It's not a big deal. Guess where you go to pay a fucking fine to get a boot removed from a car in Mexico?
I know. Guys,
Lyle. Yeah.
Police station. No.
Incorrect.
No.
You go to 7-Eleven. You go to a convenience store where they have a
Great.
convenient little kiosk that you can just pay your fines. And the police who aren't doing anything scramble right over to unlock your car. So and the big joke with me is this whole trip with all these people I went with is like, I do not want to fuck with police at all. I didn't bring anything weed related. I'm not fucking going out to strip clubs. Thank you, I believe listener Jeff, for sending me an email pro tip about that. Like I said, I'm shooting it pretty straight because I'm not fucking around to find out.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't. I have a relative that went down there and never came back.
What?
Yeah, it was my dad's cousin went down there in the mid '80s, kind of late '80s, and he was only supposed to be going for a couple weeks and fucking never came back, dude.
Wow.
They never found his body, never found nothing. He just disappeared off the face of the earth, dude.
Fucking Trump. That's just awful.
Well, they're a bunch of hippies, so I mean, I'm sure he probably caused some problem in a bar somewhere. And, you know.
Sure. So we get up the next day, we get our boot fucking taken off, whatever. We go to Mexican Disneyland, and that was there. Like, I'm gonna say this trip is bad, right? But I had some really good times. Like, there were times where I was like, "This is fucking cool. I'm so glad we came."
Yeah. Good.
And then we'll get to the other shit. So the Mexican Disneyland was dope. Like, we floated through these caverns in life vests, and flippers, and it's like, it's not a short float. It's like an hour.
And you were into that.
Listen, I first saw tiny little fish. It's salt water. It's saltwater streams.
Yeah, and you can see through it.
And they're kind of they're man-made caverns. They're not like
okay.
natural forming. So it feels like it feels very real, but you feel safer. I don't know.
Now here's my question: did it have square shapes in that nature?
Fair question.
There were no square shapes. It had to have been natural. No wombats even. At one point, we were floating under bats, like a bunch of bats nesting though, and that was wild.
Yeah.
But at one point, I saw a bunch of little fish, and I was like, "Oh, put it out of my mind." And about 3/4 of the way through, I was up on a resting point, they're every 250 yards or so. There'll be a place where you can get your kids out if one's having a meltdown or whatever. And I kind of came up on one to adjust my fins and shit, and I saw a full-grown fish swim by. And Emmer's looking at me, she's like, "What's wrong?" I was like, "Well, just saw a full-grown fish." Fuck. And that's when I started swimming.
I live on this ledge now.
Yeah. So that fucking was super fun. The next day, her friends getting it down. We went out to dinner, had a great time. Again, everything's feeling pretty good at this point. Next day is our big Chichén Itzá trip. And because we moved our reservation from the all-inclusive resort to this condo, they had no pickup there. So the way this went, Amber researched all of this shit. The company was really well received, lots of great reviews. But there's tons of them. They go cruise around on shuttles and pick up tourists, and then they cruise almost 2 hours out to the Mayan ruins and take them on this adventure with a guide and shit.
Yeah,
it's all very safe and blah blah blah. But they don't have a pickup at our condo, so they're like, "What we want you to do is we're gonna have you meet at this other condo that's about 10-minute drive from you guys. Just get on the shuttle there. We'll be waiting for you at 7:15 a.m. So we get in the car, the four of us, and we drive out there. We get there about 15 minutes beforehand, and we start parking. And it's at this fancy other resort. And the second we get out, the security guy starts kind of flicking us shit. He doesn't speak any English, but he's kind of gesturing that we can't be parking here.
Mm-hmm.
So there's already 3 shuttles lined up at the like porte cochere, the where the everyone pulls in and drops their luggage off. So I run up and I'm gonna make sure our shuttle's not leaving without us while Ember figures this out. So I run up there. None of them are our shuttles. I run back down. The security guard is getting more irate, and he's like started. You can see him huffing and puffing, and finally they call a manager out from the resort, and she speaks English, and she's like, "I'm really sorry, but yeah, you won't be able to park here during, well, you can't drop your car and get on the bus." And Ember's like, "Well, what do you think I should do?" And she goes, "What I would do," the manager says, "is go, park your car on the street right now and wait for your bus to come in. Run up and tell them you're just going to follow them to the next place or where parking is available, and you'll be fine." And we're like, "Okay, that sounds fair."
Just run down to the 7-Eleven and get yourself a pass, and then come back. And...
So we're waiting on the car, and I see this big shuttle pull up. I'm like, "Ooh, that's probably us." And I jump out, and as I'm like 15, 20 feet onto the property, that security guard comes out of his podium, and he goes, "Get off the property." And I was like,
made a project.
I was like,
out of you.
I was like, no, I was like, you were right there, the manager, this is the plan. And he goes, "Leave, do not come back." And I was like, "Oh, but that's probably our shuttle. It's like $500 worth of." And he goes, "I'm calling the policia." And he pulls out his phone and starts dialing the cops.
Like,
I was like, fuck. I just turned around, walked away. And I got in the car and I was like, "Yo, he's calling the cops right now, or says he is, if we cannot go on property." And we were trying to get a hold of the company that has the tour, and all they do is like a WhatsApp, because I guess that's the way everyone fucking messages in Mexico. So we're like an hour past when we would have been picked up at this point, still trying to figure it out. And we're like, we're throwing the towel. We're like, I guess we eat this trip. What are we going to do, So instead we got day drunk. That was another highlight of the trip. Mm-hmm. We had a pool with a swim up bar at the condo. So we just spent like 5 hours in that fucking pool.
No, nice.
Fantastic.
That'd been my plan the whole time.
And then we're like, that's great. Perfect. This is what we should be doing in Mexico.
Yeah.
Next day, next day's a new day. We have our big out. It's our last full day in Mexico, and we have our little private yacht sailing thing, and it's gonna be fucking fantastic. We get up at 7 a.m. again. We're all getting ready, and we get a fucking email 5 minutes before they're supposed to pick us up that says, "Due to so and so and blah blah blah, your trip has been canceled today." And it was something to do with the Port Authority and a storm advisory, and we did end up having a crazy storm that day. Okay. So again, another thing gets canceled, and we're like, "Fuck, that sucks." What do we do? We're feeling down. Let's go back to Mexican Disneyland. That's the only thing that sounded good. So we fucking went back to Mexican Disneyland, floated down the rivers again, did this or that, saw a Mexican cemetery, like a traditional one where you like climb a mountain and there's all these cool fucking things. I took a bunch of videos, sent some to y'all, but It was amazing. Again, cool. Trying to make the most of our last day in Mexico. And the next day we get up and it's time to go. And her friends are going to stay an additional few days at the all-inclusive resort that we were initially supposed to go to.
Yeah.
And we had a good time, but like we're ready to go home. And
they're like, "We're having the time of our lives. I'm sure glad we didn't follow your guys' path."
Well, there's one last part to this adventure, and then they did end up sending us those messages, and we were like, "Fuck you guys." So we load everyone into the car and all the luggage. It's 4 people plus luggage, and I'm like exactly what I thought when we got the car. There is not enough room in this bitch for everything here.
Yeah.
How are we gonna do this? And they're like bound and determined. Like, I ain't missing another fucking flight, especially not home. So I'm like, we have to leave. Like, we are leaving at this point. God knows how long it's gonna take us to get through immigration and all this jazz, blah blah. Mm-hmm. So we get everyone in, and trunk is full, and they're holding luggage in their laps and shit. And we're cruising down to drop them off at their resort. It's like 45 minutes away, right by Cancun. And as we're driving on the highway, there's like a police checkpoint, and they wave us in. Everyone's getting waved in. And we didn't even think anything of it. Like, no big deal. Ember rolls the window down, and she's really nice. She's like, "Hi," to the fucking machine gun wielding guy that leans into the window. And he looks at her and goes, "Hi," back, kind of condescending. And we're like, oh.
Yikes.
And he leans in and he starts looking around, and he goes, "Vacation?" And we're like, "Yeah, vacation." He's like, "Ah." And he looks in the back seat for a sec, and then he pulls out his phone and he starts speaking into his phone. It's like a translator. And he holds the phone over to us to read it, and it goes, "You have violated Mexican law. There's a passenger in your rear seat without their seatbelt on. You can pay the fine right now. It is $385 American dollars. Or I'm going to take your license and take you down to Mexican prison.
Go into prison.
And we're like, what?
Good lord.
And we didn't even know that one of them didn't have their seatbelt on back there. And the guy back there, he's like, "Can we get a warning?" And the guy kind of chuckled, and he repeated what he said and held the fucking phone up so he could see the exact same words. You know, your fine is $385. You've broken the law. You need to give me this money now, or you're gonna go. Where I had to take you down to the police station and confiscate your license. And so he's like, "What's it gonna be?" And he kind of like holds his hands up in that motion, and we're like, "Ah." And we're on the last day of our vacation, so we've spent most of our cash at this point, right? And we're like, and Ember's like, "Do you take credit cards?" And again, he kind of like laughed. And so we start
Venmo you?
Yeah, no shit. So we start pooling our money together. Like we know what the fuck is happening.
Oh yeah.
Like exactly.
Shakedown.
It's a total shakedown. But what do you do?
Nothing. You pay
Pull
them.
your money together and
fucking
you get the
pay
fuck home.
So we had like $280 between us all, and Ember kind of just hands it out, and he grabs it, and he starts counting it, and he looks at us like, "Where's the rest?" And we're like, "Man, this is all the cash we have." And he like leans in and looks like, I've never been looked at like this before. It was awful. He leaned in and to each one of us like made eye contact for a second with squinty eyes, like, "Are you fucking? Where's the rest of your money?" This is what that look said.
Yeah.
And we're like, and I was like, Jesus Christ, I've never been so demoralized. It was just a really awful feeling. And so
Yeah.
he took all the money, like gave us one more look, took a step back, and you saw him take the money in half and put half of it right into his pocket.
Of course.
And then the other half he was going to do something else with, and waved us through. And it was just a shitty fucking end to a subpar vacation. We're so, and you're like, oh yeah, we got to the airport just fine. Made it home great, but it was like one of those things where just like, can you fucking believe the vacation that we had?
With that fucking punctuation note.
Oh my god.
Well, I wonder how often saying no actually gets you in jail. Because
I wonder too, because I think they're
that
lazy.
can't be
Like, they're not-
practical for them to just keep hauling gringos to jail because they refuse. You don't want to be the one to test this.
No, but I understand what you're saying.
And they probably could if they wanted to.
Either you're going to disappear forever, or the embassy is going to get a call, and the police are not going to like it. And you know what I mean?
Or you're going to work it off, and you'll probably see your family in about 10 years.
But wouldn't you like to know how, like what would have happened if you would have said no? Is it automatically, okay, you're going to fucking jail, in the Mexican jail, and you're going to sit there until you come up with the money?
Or they
or
choose
worse.
to talk to you, because you could spend a year in there without them talking to you.
Mm-hmm. Well,
I don't know, man.
I'm glad you
I think this is a
didn't find
question
out.
for Google, or to call the American embassy and be like, "Yo, so what happens actually if you're in Mexico and you get to shake down and you don't pay them?"
Well, that's the thing. It seems like bad relations. I mean, I don't ultimately know what our relations with Mexico concerning politics are, but I feel like we're supposed to be friendly nations, right? Like we're not.
I think it might be just like fucking cops here, man, where it's like they just count on people not knowing what their rights actually are and just try to fucking intimidate you into doing whatever they tell you or whatever you want. You're like, and if you actually like, no, actually that's not, a lot of times they'll just back down and be like, "Oh, fine, this fucker knows what he's talking about. We can't do anything." You know what I mean?
It's true.
Yeah.
It would probably
They're counting on you to not know what you can do.
Better
No,
question for someone that actually lives in Mexico, It's
No
like
shit.
They'll level with you and be like, "Oh no, you paid the fucker,"
Well,
or
listen
they
to this,
mostly
like-
let you go.
We asked them, like, we were talking to a cab driver at one point, and we were talking about what it's like to live there and stuff, and Ember was like, "Can I ask you what like what's the average salary when you are, living here?" And he goes, "The average person makes $20 a day."
Yeah,
And we're like, "Oh my god!" And this guy, I feel like for these cops especially, it's like it's so widespread. It's like a way of life, and this is how it's been forever. And there's no reform on it. And there's a bit of power. Like I saw like greed and power in this guy's eyes, like I'd never seen before. Like,
can you imagine how much money he could make in one day doing
exactly
that was
a 7-minute interaction, and
Right.
we almost $300. And in a world where in the average fucking rate of daily wage is $20, that's a lot. That can go. I don't imagine the cops make a lot. I don't know in Mexico.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was fucking crazy. Would I go back? I don't think so. Like,
Yeah.
all inclusive resort, maybe. Like, it was a bad experience.
I was gonna say, I think most of the police department in New Mexico is actually former military. So you're dealing with military people. They're not. I mean, they're cops, but they come from the background of being in the military. So
Could be
a little more hardcore.
Well, I'm glad you got home safely, and I know that you were all too happy to get home safely. At what point did you feel, okay, sweet relief? Was it as you were driving away, or did it have to be when you were actually on American soil?
Yeah, straight up and down from California.
Honestly, it still felt stressful up until we got to our terminal, and everything felt very Americanized, and like
Yeah.
we went and ate at Guy Fieri's airport restaurant, and we spent $160 American on our last meal Mexican for one hamburger, wings, and 2 double drinks.
Fucking security guard comes running up to you. I knew you had more money, bitches.
Like, fuck.
You can either come
Guess
to
who's back?
Can either come
Cholo.
to me come with me to 7-Eleven now, or we're gonna have to take you to.
Fuck, man.
Yeah.
You want a big gulp there or a big gulp here?
What the fuck? That's yeah. Well, it is funny how different most places are than America, but Mexico, yeah, I've heard stories about how different it is. But that's kooky. There's some kooky things happening there. I don't understand 7-Eleven. That's like a chain. That's a That's a franchise.
And it wasn't 7-Eleven. It was OXO or something.
it's something.
Like you see them everywhere, like 7-Elevens.
Okay.
Crazy
Well, that
stuff.
makes more
I do want to
sense.
say I had a really quick mini movie review. Since I was on the plane for so fucking long, 6.5 hours, I watched a couple of flicks.
Well, it should have been a goal of yours while you were down there, was either to drink or take back a tequila bottle with the worm in it. Because
You don't know me.
well, you don't need to drink it. I mean, you just leave it as a souvenir.
Is it
We
legal?
got suckered in. Poor Ember got suckered into, like, as you're walking through the city, there's just vendors galore and like little like whiskey or tequila shops and shit. And she's like, "Do you like tequila?" I'm like, "It's not really for me. I'll have some occasionally, but I don't like margaritas, none of that." And she's like, I kind of feel the same. And she ended up getting suckered into buying like $100 bottle of fucking tequila. It was like, oh my
Well,
god.
when in Mexico.
Yeah, I guess so. Anyways, on the plane, I watched 2 flicks. I finally watched Oppenheimer.
What
You guys watch that yet?
Yeah, I loved it.
I got about halfway through it.
Yeah,
It's long.
I thought it was good, but there's just so much happening. I was very interested
It's
to learn about the
fast
shit.
paced in a strange way. Yeah.
Yes, like that Nolan pace. But there was just so much that was covered that I didn't even know happened, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh my god, the history here is fucking incredible. So
Wasn't it
but I
interesting
watched
that, like, when they're all of a sudden just out in Hanford? It's not a big part of the movie, but it's like we forget that a big part of that. What was the project? The Manhattan Project was done at Hanford, right out here, just about an hour and a half away from us. Well, yeah.
Pretty
Well,
crazy.
pretty much
That's
all of
from my cousin works there now. Anyways, the other movie I watched I thought was really interesting, especially for us. It was a movie called ISS, and it was about the ISS space station. And it starts with this caption. It's like, the ISS space station was built after the Cold War to reestablish, a connection between America and Russia. As joint, we're working together for something. And so, like, and this is basically the trailer, is all I'm giving you guys. So, like, it opens with a couple of American scientists being brought up to the space station, and they enter, and the door opens, and they've been stuck in there for hours, and it's a celebration. They're all excited, like, welcome to the crew. There's a couple of Americans and like 4 Russian scientists and astronauts. And they're up there doing, all their scientist stuff, and the new girl's getting adjusted to the space station. And the next day, she's out looking at a port, and she's looking at Earth, and she starts to see bombs going off, like nuclear bombs, like a chain of them.
Ooh.
And she's like, guys, do you see this? And they all come and look, and then they see it all over. And not like world destruction, but there's definitely been a nuclear war.
Trouble at home. That would be a fucking trip.
And so one of the lead astronaut from Russia gets a message from Russia that says, new objective, you must take the ISS from the Americans. Americans get the same exact message.
Ooh.
Like, this is an asset
I like
at
that
all
setup.
costs. And like, that's where the movie basically starts. And it's a very good drama, high suspense thriller that takes place on the ISS during what could be the end of times, but you don't really know.
Yeah.
But anyways, worth a watch. When you see it.
I don't think I've heard of that. That sounds intriguing.
me
I like
neither.
the premise.
I haven't
Yeah.
heard either.
That could
Hey, Chris.
could happen.
Yeah, it's awful.
Very likely.
So
happen.
the place that you didn't get to go to was it Machu Picchu?
You're talking about the all-inclusive resort?
No,
the pyramid, the Mayan pyramids, or
Yeah.
whatever
Oh
you
no, it was Chichen Itza.
Oh, Chichen Itza. So the top of Chichen Itza isn't it like the one that has all the blocks that kind of fit together that are like, oh my God, how this started.
I don't know. I didn't get to go, Lau. Like I couldn't tell you.
You didn't research.
He can
it
tell
at
you
all.
about 7-Eleven, but even that was a rush.
Machu
Yeah.
Picchu is the city in the sky.
Yeah, it's in Peru or something, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's in Peru, and I'm pretty sure where you were going to were these giant blocks that have like these dovetails cut through them where they
I mean, there's a
interlock
big
with
ass
other-
like Mayan
It's
pyramid.
pretty-
Yeah, I mean,
that's fucking
like
crazy.
at the Mexican Disneyland, they had recreated it and made it like it was cool and it was neat, man. Anyways, I had a good time, but fuck me, I wouldn't do that again.
Now, when you call it Mexican Disneyland, is that what they call it, or is it
No,
it's
it's just kind of referred
colloquial?
to that. It's a series of parks called, and I can't say it. I don't have the Spanish flair for it, but
Right.
it's spelled like Xcarra, and I was like, oh, Xcara, and I'm saying it fucking wrong. And it's like Skera, or something like that.
Yeah.
And even that's wrong. But it's cool, and like that was fucking great, and it felt safe. You know, it was nice and clean.
Yeah.
But anyways,
But
I'll
what's-
send you guys some great videos of that. It was cool.
Wasn't the Chichen Itza? Is that how you say it? Chichen Itza?
Chichen Itza, I think.
Wasn't that the one that's in Apocalypto? Like where
No,
that's
I
all
looked it up
settled?
because I was like, ooh, maybe I should rewatch Apocalypto, and it was a different one, but similar in nature.
Yeah. Where they chop heads off and it bounces all the way down. They all have the same design.
Fucking, that was a great movie.
square things in nature.
Yeah, I thought that had a pretty good little ending to it.
Yeah, I thought so too. Yeah, I forgot how good that was.
It was a Mel
Anyways.
Gibson movie.
Yeah.
Ronster, I want to hear about your art exhibit that opened up, buddy.
It was pretty amazing. Yeah, I don't know if I talked about it at all on the show, but I've been working on these little miniature signs made out of like foam board and paper and little
but they're
20 gauge
of,
wire for neon and
Yeah, they're of our God damn.
Local.
Our local legends and local
Some of them.
places.
some of them are.
Most
Yeah,
of them.
about maybe a little over a third of the show, not quite half, is based
so
on
cool,
local
though.
actual signs, and then the rest are just signs that I made up of like roadside attractions. And I made this big mega church land one. That was the biggest piece. It was almost 3 feet tall. But they're all just made out of like paper and foam, and they take for fucking ever to make these things. But I've been making these over the last few years, and I typically will sell them pretty quickly just by posting them on Facebook. So I had a handful of them that I hadn't sold, and then when I was offered to do the show at the local Mac Gallery, which is the best gallery we have here in town, I really wanted to show off these signs, and so I borrowed some of them back that I had sold to be just on exhibit for the first time ever, and I cranked out a whole bunch of new ones and used some of the ones that I hadn't sold yet. So I've been busting my ass this past month getting ready for that, and the last week, you know, the show was on First Friday, but I also have to have the magazine out before First Friday, so I'm like cranking away on the magazine.
And I'm like, hey, can we do a podcast? I had a real rough time in Mexico. And you're like, oh man.
I really wanted to hear it, but I was like, sorry, man. There's no way I can. Like you should have seen my fucking living room.
Okay.
It was like, look, I'm glad you didn't die, and you're back. You're not calling from Mexico, are you? Let me. How dire is
Even
this?
so, ooh, gotta go. Deadlines,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, call me. Can you call Lyle?
Yeah.
See if someone else
Doesn't
can
he owe
handle
you
this
one?
one. He owes you one. But it was, you know, and so I got it all done, and I was really proud of the show, like super proud. And I kind of went a little, speaking of Apocalypto, I kind of went a little Apocalypto with the end of it. I had one last wall of the 4-wall gallery was some of the signs were like destroyed and like burnt up and decayed. So it's sort of all, the name of the show was Signs We Were Once Here. So you're supposed to sort of walk through it and then
apocalyptic
get hit with
world.
the gut punch at the end that it's like, oh, we're not here anymore. And the last sign was the Pybus Market sign all kind of blown up and falling apart and dangling wires and stuff. And it really resonated with people. And I was, again, super proud of it. More proud of the show than I've ever been of any artistic, like visual artistic thing that I've ever put forth. But, you know, it was Apple Blossom. And I was like, I'll be happy if I get like 50 or 60 people showing up to this thing, honestly, because it'll be up all month. All the faculty and the college students are going to see it. Eventually, hundreds and hundreds of people will see this by the end of its month and a half or 2 month run. But holy shit. And there was it was the big Apple Blossom. You know, every town has an Apple Blossom. You would pick whatever big festival that closes down streets and festivals and parades and art fairs and everything. That was the big night. And then as my show was going on, the Classy Chassis Parade was going on, still, there had to have been at least 300 people that came through that fucking show. It was overwhelming. And everyone just fucking loved it. Like, it really resonated. So it was worth all the work. And I knew people would dig it. Like, I didn't have I wasn't nervous about that. I was just kind of like, trying not to psych myself out about being, I didn't want to be bummed if it was 30 people showed up. Because they showed up and they'll appreciate it. And again, it would have been up all month. But I was super excited to see how many people came. In fact, there were so many people that I left early. I had to get out of there. I couldn't have any more conversations. I hadn't eaten any food and I hadn't really had any water with me. And you know how talking dehydrates you. And I took a little flask with me to, celebrate, because they don't have wine. It's at the college, so it's not like an opening that has wine or beer or anything like that. So I brought my own festivities, and so I got fucking wasted. Like, I wasn't like stumbling around like, but then I went down to Pybus.
Hey, have you seen my balls?
Own fucking art show.
You want to see my balls?
You check this one out. Signs I was once wasted, motherfucker. But then I went down to Pybus, and then there's the brewery that I'm always at. They're continuing their local artist series. So my buddy Bryant, it's like their 5th or 6th local artist can. The first one was me, and then I did their 8th anniversary one, and then since then they've been reaching out to other local artists. It's been super fucking cool. And so his premiere was that night, release of that beer, so I went down and had some of that, and then everyone just started showing up. It's the after party and buying me free drinks, and I just never did get around to that glass of water. By the time I got home at like 1:30, I chugged a little bit of water, but I was so exhausted I just kind of passed out. And when I woke up the next morning, I was like, "Oh God, I haven't been like this in a while." But I made myself some bone broth, fell back to sleep, and I was dealing with it. But it was a pretty incredible night, and it was nice to be an artist again, because my entire existence these days is mostly putting other people's art forward and celebrating their shit, and I like doing that. But it was nice to step outside of that for at least one night and just kind of get to play in that arena one more time. So, yeah,
you sell some pieces?
Mass success. Yeah, I made about 1,500 that first night. So,
hell yeah, man!
Can't complain about that. Considering most of those pieces are $300 or $400 a pop. So,
yeah,
awesome.
I really enjoy your those pieces, all of them.
You got to go check it out. It'll be up. It's open college hours, and no one will probably be in there because everyone will be in their classes, so you can just cruise on in there and check it out all to yourself.
When someone buys a piece from that, you just put like a sold tag on it, and it stays up till the exhibit's over, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and most places, they take a commission and they handle the sales. This is mostly an exhibition gallery, so they don't handle any sales and they don't take any commission. So that was 100% profit. You just have to handle it yourself, which is pretty easy to do these days between, Venmo and Square and that sort of thing. So, yeah, it was a success, and I'm sure by the end of the run I'll have sold a few more. But it was the day of the show, I had to borrow back some of these pieces, and, they're fragile. They're all held together, as you know, Christopher, with my craftsmanship. If you drop
sometimes I feel bad. I'm giving Rob shit about his stuff falling, but mostly because I wasn't
a little
gentle with it.
Well, the problem was that I used to use regular hot glue, and I knew that if it fell, it would, it just needs to be glued back together. But I discovered somewhere along the line Gorilla hot glue sticks, and it's still nowhere near like Gorilla Glue strength, but it's way stronger, and shit doesn't fall apart like that anymore. And these are paper, so they kind of stick together better. They're light. There's no real destruction to be had, even if it does fall. But some of these are wood. The earlier ones, like the drive-in theater one, and there are a couple that are really fragile. The KPQ one has like sculptures made in clay, and polymer clay it's like shape and bake clay, and then you paint them. And I painted these tentacles pulling apart the KPQ sign, conservative talk radio show or station here in town. So I had to go borrow these back, but of course I'm a dumbass, and I was so busy putting the magazine up that I waited to the last minute, and I had to do that the day of the show, which was Friday Apple Blossom, and traffic was just fucking crazy, and I had to go all the way to Kashmir to get one, then downtown to get the other, and I already had my van full of Comets because I hadn't got to deliver them all yet. So I'm driving, holding these things in my hand and just trying to keep them from falling and slipping off and breaking, because these were bought. These sold for hundreds of dollars like a year or two ago. So if I fucked it up, I had to give them their money back or really work hard to fix it the way it was. So it was all this fucking stress right down at the last minute. And of course, traffic was just fucking ridiculous. People just pulling out in front of me. I had to slam on my brakes. It's like, I never have to hit my brakes this many fucking times until I'm holding my fucking fragile Fabergé egg sculptures that I'm trying to get to the show an hour before we open. But it reminded me of Radio Station days. That's how every fucking first Friday opening was, hanging other people's art. I was usually hanging the tags, the price tags and the title tags an hour, maybe an hour and a half into the opening. And then trying to run the bar. Oh my God. Radar was a whole different level, man. I don't know how I fucking did it.
Special times.
Well, I was curious about the ones that you had that were the destructive part, the very end of the show.
Yep.
Did you ever have any of those lights light up?
No.
Use any
no.
I
haven't figured out how to do that yet.
Well, I was thinking plexiglass. Use plexiglass, and then you could paint like fire or flame or whatever, and then use like Christmas lights, and then paint the bulb red, and then somehow stick it in there. Or you could just use Christmas lights. Well, just use the tip, just the very tip.
Yeah, just the tip.
Just the little bulby tip.
I'm sending you guys a picture of the final 4 pieces, and you can kind of zoom up and see what I'm talking about. The little
because it would glow, but
path
then you
of destruction.
couldn't tell what it looked like.
Well, I have done stuff like that. Like I don't know if you saw that little phone booth that I made.
Yeah, I've seen them all.
That little phone booth looks, even in person, it's like 1.5 feet tall. Just staring at that with that little fluorescent colored LED light that I had, and that's what it was plexiglass and just a little sign that said phone on it. But yeah, if you take a look at that picture, you'll see the progression of the destruction. I think that went through. But
I can dig it.
And it pained me to destroy the signs because especially that Denny's one, because I hadn't made a Denny's sign yet, and it's like, oh, that's a good little Denny's sign. But then I literally just torched that one with the lighter. And if you look to the right of that, anyone that is from Washington State or maybe even the whole Pacific Northwest will recognize the Honk for Fonk, the Vern Fonk Insurance Agency billboard. I don't know why I've never made a billboard before. That was the first one I made. I really like how it turned out.
For quite a while, since we were kids in junior high. I think that I remember listening to that
constantly
advertisement on Fox.
But you know what's funny? I looked up to get the reference photo for that because I made it from scratch. That dude died 20 years ago. Do you guys know that?
Oh no shit.
Vern Fonk has been dead for 20. That. And Vern Fonk wasn't even his name. That's not as surprising, but still, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Life's not going to be the same for me after that.
I know.
The more you know.
But speaking the name of that piece is Who Was the Last to Honk for Fonk?
Would you say, in a world, Ronster, where you're kind of always pivoting, and I enjoy and disdain watching how you live sometimes because
same.
The structure is a little wonky. I need like a different structure than you have.
Yeah.
But I also like man, there is a man that's alive. I envy it a little bit. Like the what you do, the hustle you put into everything because you have to.
Yeah.
is really inspiring. But my question is after the success of this art gallery, is there a pivot coming? Like, are you going back to more of this? Like what's next for you now?
Well, the funny thing is, I already had I got 2 art shows booked, right, like back to back for the first time in years. So I've got one in Thorpe, which is just outside of Ellensburg, at a really cool place called Punch Gallery. A very similar thing to what Radar was doing, actually, thematically, and what they are trying to put forth. You know, the kookier, lowbrow, pop surrealism stuff. That's less represented in the more white wall galleries. So I am already thinking of the next one. After that one, I'll probably chill a little bit and then go back to doing a piece here and there to try to sell. But it was nice to have that goal. I'm very goal oriented. As chaotic as my life is, those goals change. And, you know, I got the magazine every month, and that's kind of a similar thing every month, but I never know how many ads I'm going to sell. So that the hustle, you know, sometimes can ebb and flow. But, and then there's also sometimes we have, I mean, it's 48 pages. That's a lot of words to prove. And sometimes it's all text, and sometimes there aren't that many photos in there. So that workflow changes. But it'll be nice for a week to just kind of like chill and casually make art, even though I know this is for an upcoming art show.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know, to answer your question. Maybe. I feel like it's such a hard time right now for art because, you know, I usually do pretty well. I make the most money off of my art than anything else. But the economy is in such a shitter right now, and you know, rent in this town is fucking absurd. And so a lot of people aren't really. I was kind of surprised that I sold pieces that night. Honestly, it was like I just was proud to get. I knew that I'd sell them eventually, and you know, I'll have these pieces to take to art fairs and other shows. So, but I was surprised that people bought them. But it is easier to sell when you get them in front of somebody. And like I said, the Mac Gallery is the best gallery in town. They pride themselves on how they light it, how they hang it. You know, they planned all that with me and really dialed it in. And those pieces never looked as good as they look right now.
Awesome.
So there was some spark in me, like, wow, I forgot how much easier it is to sell art when you actually get it in front of people instead of just posting on Facebook, and which I do sell a lot that way, you know, and especially these signs. These signs are kind of funny because I sell a lot of my paintings, and you know, a lot of my paintings have like pop culture-y stuff in them and things that sort of tie to nostalgia here and there, but not like these signs. These signs hit on a different level. It's almost more like seeing a really cool vintage toy that you just have to have. You know, it's like kind of like people just gots to have it.
That or some that might should belong in a museum. I hate even fucking saying this.
It belongs in a museum.
No,
it's museum quality for people that live here.
No, you shouldn't feel bad
like,
about saying that. I am going to pitch that to the local museum because it's like they can, you know, they're small. Most of these are only like about a foot tall. They can find me a little corner somewhere because I think it would be super cool to have a Ghosts of Wenatchee sign exhibit. And as these businesses go away, or as these signs get torn apart, you know, it's funny. I was doing a Stan's sign. That's a local shop here, kind of legendary just because of its kookiness.
It's been like our Walmart for the 70s.
Yeah, it was like department stores when they could just have like a little bit of everything, but it was a ma and pa thing.
Stan's Mary Mart, right?
Yeah,
like Chubby and Tubby for you Seattle natives.
Yeah, well, they got a super cool like mid-century, very famous sign, and they have updated it over the years. They got rid of the neon, and then it turned it into a different look. But it's still kind of the same overall shape. But as I was doing a version of that sign, they replaced the original marquee with a digital LCD one or LED one. And I was like, that's kind of funny because now that sign now represents another ghost in Wenatchee. So I think that would be a cool thing for the museum to have, is like, remember these places, because it had that effect on a lot of people that, holy shit, I forgot about Ernst Hardware.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what's funny is when I see your signs, I find them so realistic that I'm almost like disappointed that the neon doesn't light up. It's
Yeah.
it's like fucking wire. I mean, but like,
Everybody
why
has
would
that.
it? But it looks so real
Yeah.
that you're like, oh, it's not gonna light up.
There is this little like neon wire stuff that, you know, it's thicker than the wire that I use. It's like this plastic. It looks kind of like a plastic noodle rope or whatever, and it's tied to a battery pack, and you can sort of shape it, but you know, you can't do it in like single pieces. You have to basically use like one long string, and you can kind of do that effect, but it's not very bright. Like it wouldn't have even read in a gallery. So, but at some point, something will pop up, and I'll be like, "Oh shit, there it is."
Well, I mean,
how to
if you
take
did
this
it
to the
on
next level.
those
Well,
books.
I'm working on a famous one, Seattle one right now. You guys
Premiere?
remember the big pink elephant car wash? I'm working
Oh, yeah,
on
of
that one.
course.
At first, I
cool,
thought
man.
maybe I'll make it rotate like that sign does, but I decided to just make a kick-ass one side of it and sort of like half spin it so it looks like it's maybe in motion. But yeah, they're pretty fun. They're pretty fun to scheme. And a lot of the work is in Photoshop because it's not like you can just go take a photo of these, even the ones that are still here. You can't just take a picture of them and print it out and glue shit on it.
Yeah, right.
You gotta erase all of the old neon and any of the shadows and fix the lighting and fix the angles and pretty much have to redraw them from scratch. That takes well, half the time sometimes, but it's a satisfying project, and it was it resonated well, that art show. So if any y'all listeners are in the vicinity, and if you really want to check it out, it's worth it. I think it's worth a drive over to Wenatchee. You know, make a day of it. Come on by, check it
supposed to
out.
be like 80.
Get yourself some food. Yeah, it's gonna be nice over the next few
Thursday
weeks.
or
But
something.
anywho,
Yeah, when Chris mentioned that, I was thinking, you know, the fact of freeing you up to do more art stuff like that. It's like all four of us do so much shit. It's you almost are at a standstill. You know, like what do? You write a couple of songs, maybe start a new album, paint, maybe do a couple more models. What else? I mean, just
Yeah, there's
the
always
paper.
something
I
you
mean,
can be-
Jesus, yeah, your
there's always
workflow's like
something to be doing.
phenomenal.
Yeah, I just kind of just keep on and working. Even my leisure time is working out at the bar. Sitting there with my laptop. That's gotten harder and harder to do because I get it's just become such a busy place, and I get more interruptions than I used to. But
Yeah.
it's still nice. Sometimes you just got to get out of the fucking house, brah. These cats have a good conversation with.
Man.
I need
You want to get on to some weird trip?
I think we'd better.
It's Weird Trivia with Christopher F. Hart, a man from Florida who thinks square shit in nature. Don't get me started on the goddamn brown hair. It's Weird Trivia that might get Christopher fired.
Well, who won last? Week?
Oh, last week was a long time ago, Lau.
It sure was.
God, let me see. I can actually find out.
That was
for
a
you.
whole Mexican trip ago.
Well, I know it was a tie between Ron and Lyle. Do you remember who won the tiebreaker?
It had to have been
feel
John
like-
Mark and Ron.
I feel like I've been winning a lot lately, but I can't.
I think
remember.
Ron. I think Ron won the last 2 weeks. So wow,
There you go.
wow.
Wow.
Wow. I always have a bit more fun when I can write these when I've actually like personally saved the stories or factoids that come across my timeline. And I'm happy to say that like
Lloyd.
for the next two trivs, I think 3/4 of them are my own shit. So yeah, I think it's gonna be fun. I like these ones a lot. All right, let's kick right into it. Standard order. Question 1. In a recent interview, the fantastically mustached Tom Selleck divulged that he has never once used this type of technology in his entire life. Again, Tom Selleck admitted he's never used this type of technology. Is it A, email or text messaging?
Okay.
Is it B, social media of any kind?
Yeah.
Is it C, a smartphone? Or is it D, an electric razor?
Well, the first three Well, the first two make sense because I don't feel like I see much of Tom Selleck these days. I mean, let's be honest, it's more like Tom Relic these days. It's not exactly.
He's got a commercial where he's selling like insurance to old people.
Really?
He's there. It's just hard to see him between.
Yes.
It's hard to see him between the zebra torture.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's kind of what my thinking was, like a social media, anti-social media thing. That he seems like that kind of guy that would think that that's all a bunch of, I don't know, sissy shit, or for 12-year-old girls. I feel like he'd say something like that. No one would have known about Mr. Selleck. Not using a phone though, a smartphone. That kind of seems very un-Magnum PI. It seems like he was pretty slick. And I know that he's not Magnum PI, but
I was like, that was a character.
I have a hard time explain.
Yeah. Explain it.
Can you guys, off the top of your head, think of the Magnum PI song?
No, I think I go back to Knight Rider and oh no,
I was just trying to pull it up, and I think I was heading toward Knight Rider.
I got
It
it.
is Mark.
All right. Yeah, there it is.
Incredible.
Nice. I thought you were having a stroke for a second. It was like, no, you don't got it at all. I was like, wait a minute. Getting into that fucking...
Oh, any surgery does.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there it is. Okay, so... Yeah, so since he is literally Magnum PI, I feel like Magnum PI would keep up with the times. Although, I do like the idea of a Magnum PI that's just like one of those guys that never got out of the 70s or 80s, and he's still driving that shitty, like, the Trans Am, but it's all, or whatever it was, the Firebird, and it's all fucked up and limping on one leg, and he's just an old, sad Magnum PI. That would be kind of a funny sketch. I not using an electric razor. Well, he's known for that stash, of course, but he does seem to have some stubble. He always kind of had that 5 o'clock shadow, and that's hard to do if you're relying solely on razors, unless you got that Wookiee blood running through you. I'm gonna go. I think the easy poll here is probably social media.
Okay, I'll put you down for a social media
But Magnum
of any
PI is
kind.
too busy chasing pussy in his Hawaiian
not
shirt.
He doesn't even need to get on Grindr.
Troubling shorts. Come back here. Get away from me, Mr. Troubling Shorts. Your creepy
John
car from 40 years ago.
I'm gonna say social media too, because I honestly cannot remember ever seeing anything by like anything referencing like except for somebody saying, "Oh, what about Tom Selleck?" Like there's I can't, I don't remember seeing a retweet or a repost or a
Thanks to Elon Musk.
anything.
Yeah.
Maybe he's being shadow banned.
Yeah.
But let's go with that.
Okay, Lyle.
I'm gonna say for $9.99, you could get insurance for your elderly folks.
What?
Is it that cheap?
No, he's Tom Selleck. He sells
Is he that
insurance
elderly?
to old people. Yeah,
for $9.99.
he's kind of old though, so he does kind of talk a little like
He's
that.
gotta be. I gotta see. He's probably still handsome as fuck, though. I bet, right?
Oh God, he's probably slaying puss fucking more. So
Tom Selleck
wait,
today. I'm sorry.
I guess I would say that to me, he seems like the type that would be stuck on his Nokia for a long time.
All right, playing Snake.
Playing
Yeah.
a little bit of Snake. And
So you
I
don't?
think-
Are you going with the email or text messaging, or the smartphone?
I'm going with the smartphone. A lot of people I don't think could wrap their heads around the smartphone once they're in the 70s. They've been living alive in the 70s as a fucking, puss layer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
I think he probably went to a Nokia and then went to a flip phone. That's where his journey of phones kind of ended. After he put away the bag phone, that was in his
He was
Ferrari.
recently on a show or something called Blue Bloods. So he's still in the biz. Or was recently.
Well,
I'm not
he
sure.
was a cop, wasn't he? In his own TV show, he was like a cop or something like that.
What wasn't that Magnum PI?
Something blues, like a Detroit Blues or
Oh,
something.
you're
I
thinking
don't
Hill Street Blues? He wasn't in that, though.
not Hale Street Blues.
That theme song I know.
Oh, Blues
can
Clues.
Blues Clues.
Can you do?
It's hidden under my mustache.
Here's the test. Can you remember the 21 Jump Street theme song?
It's funny because I'm working on a TV theme song quiz for you guys. Not
Oh, God darn it.
it'll be a ways off, but no, it's not coming up. I bet I'd recognize it in a clip. Can you?
Okay, question 2.
I feel like I need closure on this now. Can anyone?
Not
can
that
find it.
it's not coming to me.
Find the theme song to it on the YouTube. You could probably pull it up.
Well, sure, but that's cheating.
Oh yeah, you're not gonna get it. Fuck, it was years ago, dude. You know how many brain cells you've killed since then?
Well, John Mark was able to draw up Magnum PI, at least the funky breakdown. All right, let's move on.
Yeah, it was pretty solid. That was pretty tight. It was fire, as kids would say.
Okay, question 2. Let's go.
Question 2. Travis Kelce was on his brother's podcast recently, and he shared that he thinks about 15% of the NFL players in any NFL locker room are this. And his brother Jason backed him on this estimate. So I know it's kind of worded funky, but about 15% of all NFL players. So he called it like, from the locker room. He's like, if 15% of any locker room staff or player is this.
Okay.
A, flat earthers.
Oh, huh. Okay.
B, 9/11 deniers.
These are not where I thought we'd be going at all.
We'll give it time. C, have the equivalent of an elementary school education.
Well,
We're getting
guess
closer.
Or D, are gay.
It's funny. I almost said that, but
Again, Travis Kelce estimates about 15% of NFL players in any NFL locker room are one of these. And his brother said, yeah, I believe that to be true. Is it A, flat earthers, 9/11 deniers, elementary school education level, or are gay? Ronster.
you said 15%?
Yep.
15% gay.
Sounds about right for you, buddy. Yeah.
Every now and then.
I mean, I feel like
15% gay. 15% gay, closer to 20 in my case.
I feel like that's high, but I don't know. I don't know what the percentage of gays are in or out of the locker room. But I hate to say it, but would anybody be surprised if they claimed that 50% of them were essentially dumb? I mean, a lot of these people, they got free rides into schools. They weren't getting those free rides because they were calculating mathematical equations. They could throw a ball and they could knock a person down. And it's a cliche, but it has to be kind of true. At least maybe dumb is unkind, but uneducated.
Sure, there you go. Or traveled.
I'm very.
They are traveled.
Educated.
Yeah, that's true. They are
Untraveled.
traveled. Huh? I'll put you down for C.
It's not racist if you say it that way.
I'm glad I didn't hear what
John
you
Mark.
said.
Don't ban us, please.
Let's go with elementary school education.
Interesting.
It'd be interesting if it's the gay thing, though.
Right.
I feel like that's high.
You know what? And that kind of makes me want to just say it, so somebody says it.
Oh my.
The gay thing?
Well, how many people do you think are kind of probably gay in the wrestling field?
Well, I'm sure it's like
you
mean,
got
That makes more
you're in
sense.
your
Come on, what is a full Nelson if not a Saturday night?
Yeah, I mean, you're literally in your pajamas wrestling another grown man. That's willing to do it.
Ding,
Hot and
ding.
heavy. Little suplex.
I wonder what sport has the most gay people in it.
I don't know.
It's probably something obvious, but maybe not. I guess we wouldn't want to stereotype
Got to
it.
be at least 20 or
Wrestling's
30%.
pretty good. Wrestling's pretty good.
I'm gonna say we don't need no education.
Family Gamer. All right. Question 3. Oh, God, this one's gonna tickle you or not. Tori Spelling was on a show recently, and she made a confession about her bowel movement habits. She told the world that she physically cannot poop unless
Finger in her butt.
A.
Oh my.
Don't give away all your secrets, Lalo. She cannot physically take a dump unless like, she cannot. She won't be able to go unless A. She eats a banana first thing in the morning.
Okay.
And then what? What's she
B.
do? What's she do with the other banana?
Is it B? She can't go unless she has an assortment of shampoo bottles to read.
Shampoo bottles to read.
Oh, that's interesting. I'll explain why.
New sleek and special formula makes our hair so shiny and glittery.
Whoop.
Gotta go.
Yeah. She can't go unless it's sunny outside.
That's a good thing she lives in California.
Do you think maybe it's because when she squints her eyes, she squints in her butthole?
Squints the brown eye as well.
I do. I do, Lau. I think you, unintended, correct the case.
She can't squint just the two eyes.
Exactly. You can't squint
Can't you
them
just
both
wink?
at the same time. It's
That's a thing.
It's like sneezing and trying not to fart. I mean, it's just a. Oh man.
Yeah.
Or is it D? She can't take a dump unless someone's watching her.
No, that's kind of creepy.
That's weird.
It's
Again,
off.
Yeah, run through these.
He
again.
admitted in a interview that one of these things is true. It's she can't poop unless she eats a banana first thing in the morning. Has an assortment of shampoo bottles to read. Can't poop unless it's sunny outside, or someone's got to be watching.
Yeah, it's a shame.
I
Shame.
must
on
feel like
Somebody's-
watching me.
Your work is done here. Your services are no longer needed. Damn, I'm leaning toward the shampoo bottle thing, which I know sounds strange, but we have things. You remember when we all used to eat cereal, and it didn't feel right if you didn't have the cereal box in front of you and you were reading whatever
Just to
bullshit
fucking
was on the
read.
cereal box.
Yeah.
That was how we learned to. That was our morning paper.
right.
We were kids. We had to see what Lucky was up to, and who was always trying to get his. Always somebody after his Lucky Charms.
Marshmallowy goodness.
They usually had games, but I loved reading the back of cereal boxes. I loved it so much that I even read my grandparents. You know, when you stay at your grandparents' house, sometimes all they had was like Cracklin' Oat brand or fucking. It was always bran. They always got sold the brand thing back then.
Raisin nuts. What is it called?
Raisin nut oak twig parade.
Like one of those like single fucking like giant one of those things. Never mind. Sorry. Edit that wrong. Make me sound smart.
Sure won't. Make you sound like one of the 15%ers in the locker room there. But
Oh my!
but there's like a Pavlovian response to reading that and making you want cereal. But I've also noticed. Have you guys noticed this thing where I feel like so often when I go shopping for something, like I don't shop much these days anymore, but when I'm really just like, you know what you want, you know what you need, you go and you get out. But sometimes you're just browsing, like record shopping or something, or at a bookstore. When you get in front of all these books and all these options, I feel like 9 times out of 10, I immediately have to pee. I don't know what it is. It's like, fuck, I gotta go pee. And then I can come back and shop.
Fucking focus, because I gotta pee.
Automatic thing happening there. I'm really leaning toward that. But the thing with being watched is so opposite of what most people are. Like most people struggle with that.
Yeah, you're gonna
So
tighten up.
I'm
and
tempted to
not
go
wanna-
for that just because it's opposite town.
And she's from Hollywood too, so she might be
trying
going
to-
crazy.
Yeah, generational.
Trying to see this
Uh-huh.
being headline worthy. I'm gonna go with that. Only
poop?
with a turtle.
It's
head.
all the poop.
Only by a turtle
Okay.
heads. I'm going with.
Someone's watching her?
Yeah, that she can only poop with someone. Here's the other thing:
Ooh.
she is a celebrity, and she is used to having her every move being watched.
She
and
wants to be
She was a
watched.
pampered
Yeah.
celebrity. Her dad was Aaron fucking Spelling. She grew up
90210
in a fucking castle.
Can you say it?
He had, I think, for a long time, Aaron Spelling owned the largest mansion in, I don't know if all of L.A., but all of like Beverly Hills or Bel Air or wherever the fuck he lived. I drove by it when we did Jody and I were down there doing the celebrity homes tour, which is one of my favorite parts of L.A. Anyway, I've hogged the mic. That's probably fucking reading shampoo bottles or something.
John Mark,
Gotta go.
Eat a banana.
Banana. You go
Yeah,
with the
that's practical.
potassium.
Good
Potassium.
too.
I'm going with the finger.
Swallow
in
a
the butt.
tube, lose a tube.
Yeah.
See?
Finger in the butt wasn't. Oh, that was E. Yeah, finger in the butt. You got it wrong.
No, that was my doctor talking to me.
Mhm.
Oh, that's right. I couldn't believe that. My doctor actually told me that.
To
I was like, dude, I'm
finger your
feeling
butt
really
to
kind
poop?
of backed up. And he goes, well, let's just stick your finger up there. I'm like, what?
Go back and forth.
Walked off.
Try it. You might like it.
He was being 100%
Excuse me.
serious. He was being 1,000% fucking
Watch, I'll do it
serious.
to myself here.
Yeah, hold on. I'll do
You
it
need to
first,
guide?
and then I'll watch you do it and film it
Oh,
Yeah.
I'll be right
for
back.
medical class.
Yes,
I got
for
this
medical
on
class. This is where
That moment.
we're
It's
having
at that
us a-
moment, Lyle realized he was at a 7-Eleven and not his doctor's
God
office.
damn, in Mexico. I was in a Mexico 7-Eleven. God damn.
with Dr. Jellyfinger.
We should do a fucking spoof on that. That'd be hilarious. A little short video of that.
Yeah.
Just
I'm not
wake
going
up.
back, Lyle.
Yeah,
Well,
Chris,
we'll just
Chris
make
isn't
it-
risking anything. That
We'll make
security
the
guard might
7-Eleven
find
here
out.
look like it's from Mexico, and that shouldn't be too hard. You know?
What are you
Rest of
going
your
with,
money,
sir?
Fucking shithead.
I'm sorry, Chris. I did do this to you.
You
What
need
were
the answers again.
questions?
It's okay. She can't poop unless she eats the banana. Has shampoo bottles to read. Shampoo. Poo.
You get a poo on the sham?
If she can't go unless it's sunny out or someone has to be watching her.
I'm gonna go the sunny thing. I think the Finkster and the fucking eye socket's probably got some kind of link to it.
Which is a sphincter? Is that what you said?
Finkster?
No, he said Finkster.
Sphincter.
I said Finkster.
Fucking my Finkster up.
It's my favorite Egyptian.
Hieroglyph. Did you see that
famous
on the
Finkster.
side of the pyramid? The Finkster?
We uncovered the sphincter. I can't even say it. Sphincter.
Sphincter.
It's got a horrible stench, but it's beautiful.
Ain't no one going into that fucking tomb.
Nah. All right.
All right. Lastly, on a jolly note, women who are admitted to the hospital are far less likely to die or have to be readmitted later if this. Is it A, if they have children? Is it B, if they are treated by a female doctor? Is it C, if they do not have insurance? Or is it D, if they are single?
The question one more time?
Women who are admitted to the hospital are far less likely to die or have to be readmitted to the hospital if this. Is it they have children, they are treated by a female doctor, they don't have insurance, or they are single? One of these things is a statistic that's real.
God, I can't get my brain around the question for some reason.
If you're a woman that goes to the hospital and one of these things is true, if something crazy happens, you're far less likely to die.
If anything crazy happens, you're far less
Yeah, if
likely
you are
to
if
die.
you're going to the
Okay.
hospital for something, like your death rate is
Like a heart
guaranteed to be
attack or
lower if you're a woman if one of these things is true.
Uninsured is interesting.
So they have children.
But I can't do the
If you're
math.
treated by a female doctor, if you don't have insurance, or if you are single.
Boy, I'm tempted to go with the female doctor. I'm torn between that and having children because I could see just the fact that, anytime you're you're ill, a big part of fighting it is your morale, your overall will to do so. God knows, not wanting to leave behind your children would be a big boost.
Huge.
I like the idea of torn between that. I'm gonna go with that if they have kids.
Okay.
Gives them more of a reason to fight.
John Mark.
I'm stumped. Female doctor.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that one too.
I'm gonna say, and I don't know why I'm saying it, but I'm gonna say having no health insurance, because I think there's a grace period between having not health insurance and then being able to have like state and you still have to pay for the state, but I mean it's significantly a lot less than having to go out and get your own. Like
Yeah.
and I only know this from experience because I have to have two.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna go with that, and just on the leans of the beginning of that situation. You know what I mean? Because with time, they'll be able to get, at least some type of insurance, like a bomb care or whatever.
Well, this is an
Okay.
interesting game. I have no idea. I don't think we're gonna have a tie this time.
Let's go over it and let's find out. Sorry, give me one quick second to do some tabulating. I'm gonna make sure I get that last one right here. Interesting. Okay. Question 1. In a recent interview, the fantastically mustached Tom Selleck admitted that in his entire life, he's never used email or text messaging, not a single time.
Yeah. Did anyone go with that?
No.
So,
Whiff.
Big whiffer.
Interesting game indeed.
Whiffed.
Question 2. Travis
breeze to
Kelce
the
was on his
mustache.
brother's podcast, which I believe is called New Heights, but I might be wrong, and shared that he thinks about 15% of any NFL locker room are flat earthers.
No, really? Huh?
Yep, and his brother immediately said, "That seems right." Yeah.
Well, that is
I
interesting.
wonder
Fascinates
if they mean that they're like super naive, or does that mean they believe?
I
Like
think
a
it was a
literally
very
flat
literal
earthers.
quote.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that could definitely be a type of person, huh?
Well, the way they spend
Well,
time
yeah,
together,
I
you
mean-
could see conspiracy theories of any
No, that
sort.
means they have an elementary school education.
Yeah, we're
Is that
both
right?
we're both
What do
right.
you mean?
Trick question.
So nobody has points yet, if I'm not mistaken.
Huh. All right. Maybe we'll all tie at 0.
That would be incredible. I've done that. I've whipped you guys one game.
Have we?
I was so proud of
Yeah, I
it.
bet that does feel good.
Tori Spelling was on a show recently when she made a confession that she can't take a shit unless somebody's in the bathroom with her, locking fucking eyes with her.
shit.
She has that deep of a codependency on
Yeah.
people that she cannot do it.
Okay.
Like she calls, it used to be her husband, Dean, or whatever that guy's name.
Yeah.
And now it's like her poor fucking kids. She makes come into the bathroom.
Oh,
She's like,
no.
just a minute.
No. I don't think that's.
It's not healthy.
That might be. That feels like a boundary cross. I mean,
Yeah.
families all do
bizarre
things
shit.
differently, but that
That's
seems
no good.
Well, you know what
That's
she needs
so
to
that
do?
doesn't seem good. No.
Not to sound like a creepo, but like if she started doing like Skype, calls when she had to poop, that way she could look at somebody through the computer,
It's true.
and then maybe
You can
drop
make a few
into this
nickels off it
person's-
too.
There you go.
Oh, let me log into my Only Plops account. Hold on. And record.
Only plops when they're looking.
Okay. Let's see. Ronster got that right.
Yeah.
Getting the first point of the game. Question 4. Women
Boy,
who
ain't I
are-
proud.
Poop question.
Poop things.
Where things
Oh.
in nature. What?
Women who are admitted to the hospital are far less likely to die or have to be readmitted if they are treated by a female doctor. Take that for what you will. I think it says something. I know a lot of women don't like or people don't like the idea of men being in charge of their bodies, and I think that's fair.
It's a little weird.
Um,
Well, I mean, that's
well,
kind
you
of
know,
weird, though. I mean,
also,
I
like,
I don't
I
think
treat
treat
all my
weird.
doctors the same. If they're
No.
women or men, I don't care.
totally.
I'll pull my balls out. I don't care.
And your
Okay.
finger in.
And it's happened. Many a time.
Yeah.
Finger in your butt if you're a little
Not the
back
finger
up,
in the
right?
butt,
I think,
but my
I think
balls
the
out.
point here is that not all doctors treat their patients the same.
I
There
agree.
you go.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I had to go and
John
say
Mark
there
got
wouldn't
that
be
correct.
a fucking tie.
Yeah.
I was gonna
and,
say I appreciate and love my. Well, I don't love. I like my female doctors. Because
What was it George W. Bush said? The doctors can go ahead, or OBGYNs can continue to show their, why did he say, like, practice their love with women? He said something super creepy like that. They're talking about health insurance, and I went down a rabbit hole of George W. Bush isms the other day. They're so good. The best.
I remember what
really?
you're talking about. I don't remember the exact quote,
like-
but yeah, I remember. It
It's
was a
something
pretty.
like OBGYNs can continue to
Yeah.
practice their love on women, or it was something like creepy like that. But my favorite Bushism is always, fool me once, shame on
me,
you. See, can't go fool me again.
Can't be fooled twice.
Fool me twice, won't get fooled again.
I don't think he even say. I just gotta pull it up.
The look
It's
on his
super
face
quick.
is my favorite though, because like he goes in so strong
He
with a
chokes.
smile, and then like realizes immediately he doesn't know how that fucking ends, and the look is just sadness. Like
He doesn't
oh,
know how it
just shuts
starts.
down.
He's like, "Fool me once, shame on
Damn.
you." Okay, here it
I
is.
knew this. We practiced
It's like 10 seconds. Give it a listen here. And
There's an old saying in Tennessee, I know it's in Texas, probably in Tennessee, that says, fool me once, shame on you. You fool me, we can't get fooled again.
I don't know what the
Fool me, can't get fooled again.
what the rat was playing in the background for, but
man.
fool me. It's even worse than every time I watch it. It's actually worse than.
Oh, yeah.
Like I can never say it as bad as it actually is. That's like a 30-second pause. See, you can't go fool me again.
Okay, guys.
All right.
Here's what we're gonna do. Tiebreaker. Send me a text. It's a number, a percentage. What percentage of a cucumber is made up of water?
Ooh,
I think it'll play.
interesting.
Yeah, you can play. I mean, you won't. You can't win. Wow, you can just say your answer if you want to. Get weird.
I'm gonna say it's 30%.
30%.
Everybody knows that. Come on now. If you were to blend that baby in a blender, you know,
Wow.
30%.
Okay. Ronster said 80%.
It's probably a little high.
John Mark
It's a
said
watery vegetable.
90.
Oh,
John Mark said 90%.
shit.
The correct answer is 95% of
No.
a fucking cucumber is made of water. It's a very
I went high.
watery fucking vegetable.
You know, it'd
Yeah.
be a good one.
Very
for next
hydrating.
time is watermelon, because watermelon is like lots of water.
Yeah, Chris,
well,
you got that ready?
We'll
Yeah.
think about it.
My
Besides
bad.
the outer shell, you know. No, next time.
That cucumber's
Yeah,
my
everything.
watermelon. That's a saying down here in Texas. Well, it should be-
Congratulations, John Mark. The king is back. The king returns.
Yeah, well, I was
Jeez.
hoping not
You
celebrate.
guys want to know something funny? So the last 3 tiebreakers that Chris has presented us with a percentage to guess, I guess 90%.
Oh, he's just looking at
Son
your
of a bitch.
history in the chat.
Son of a bit. I really thought I
Funny.
overshot it, but I knew that it wasn't Price is Right rules because I knew it had to be high.
Yeah.
Taking a couple bites out of a nice ripe cucumber is very hydrating. All right. Well, that was fun. And Chris, I'm glad you're back safe and sound on home soil.
Thank you.
And I
Me
hope
too.
you don't have nightmares of seeing adult fish in man-made caverns or having to take spooky trips to Mexican 7-Elevens.
What if you had
dreaming about a certain
nightmare?
police officer?
Yeah, this would be the best nightmare. Is you have a nightmare in front of 7-Eleven. It's that Mexican guard, and instead of having a AK-47, he has a big old fucking fish. He points it at you.
You're like,
Wow.
just take me to the jail.
Give me all your money.
I'm good.
There's no.
Put your seatbelt
Die.
on, or
You
give
got
me your
fish in
money.
that prison? No, take me to the prison.
We're going to prison.
We're
Ooh,
going to
safety.
jail. Oh boy!
All right,
Always
guys,
travel to
well,
Mexico with cash, I guess. That's the
Yeah.
moral of that story.
All right, all right.
All right, y'all. Thanks for joining us. Tune in next week. We'll be talking about some 9/11. That should be a barrel of laughs. Till then, have yourself a week. Bye, y'all.
Night, guys.
Man.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.